All right, welcome back to another episode of Addicted to MMA. Let's jump right into it. First and foremost, I want to talk about Kayla Harrison. She was on Ariel Helwani's podcast today, actually, and you listen to her talk, and she's hungry, man. Dominant in the PFL. She's running out of opponents. She also is coming towards the end of her contract with the PFL. So, where's the next logical step? I'll tell you where. It's against Amanda Nunes in the UFC. Baddest women title. Baddest women on the planet belt. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be marketed as, and it's coming. I'll tell you that right now. I can see it. Judo versus kickboxing. Let's just hope, and it reminds me a lot of, that she fares better than Ben Askren did when he came over from one championship. Also dominant, never lost a round, came over here, got his ass beat. I mean, he did beat Robbie Lawler, but come on. By the skin of his teeth, everybody knows it. And then he got knocked out quick by Jorge Masvidal. Neither here nor there. Askren and Harrison are two different people. Kayla Harrison is a two-time Olympic gold medalist in judo. She won the gold medal, and then she also defended it. And she's running. I mean, where's the next logical step? If you want to fight the elite fighters in MMA, you go to the UFC. She made her mark on with this other promotion, and now she needs to go to the UFC and fight the Lioness. All right. So, and I think she's on the same page. I think that's where she wants to be, and if she pushes for it, she'll get it. Dana White's known for bringing stars that are dominant from other organizations over into the UFC to let them try to test their mettle with the best. And the best are in the UFC, let's make no mistake about it. Also in the news, Dana White did an interview recently with Brett Okamoto where he touched on Nick Diaz. Let's talk a little bit about Nick Diaz. I love Nick Diaz. One of my favorite fighters of all time. I mean, him and Dominic Cruz, and I have a couple other ones. But those guys, every time they step in the octagon, you know you're there to watch something special, right? It's not going to be a hug fest. It's not going to be a bore fest. They're going to entertain you. That's why I love these fighters. The fighters that I love are not just strikers, but they're guys who put the pressure on their opponent. You know, that just seem hungry especially when they have no real legitimate reason to be that hungry. They want to win. They have the will to win. Nick Diaz is one of these guys. However, he has lost to some stupid, crazy decisions. And he's had a long, long, lustrous career over the last couple decades. But let's talk about him. I used to love watching Strikeforce. I used to subscribe to Showtime back in the day just for Strikeforce. Now, after I subscribed, of course, when Strikeforce wasn't having an event and there was nothing else on TV, I found Dexter. Yeah, no. But as far as Showtime went, I paid monthly for Strikeforce. I loved the presentation. I was already, with previous years, a UFC fan. But watching Strikeforce, it was like there was a little bit of spectacle. There was a little bit of fireworks, and the walkouts were extravagant. And they had great fighters. Let's make no mistake about it. In fact, they had such great fighters that most of the great fighters you look at and recognize today tied into the UFC came from Strikeforce. Daniel Cormier, Luke Rockhold, Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, blah, 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 blah. I could go on and on and on. Nobody talks about Strikeforce. They should have been. Strikeforce is the reason the UFC has a women's division right now. Before Strikeforce was so successful, with their women's division, Dana White had stated in an interview, and I could probably look it up, but I remember it because he ate his words. He said, "I will never have women fighting in the UFC."
When are we gonna see women in the UFC, man?
Never.
Anytime soon? Never?
Never.
All right,
Thank you guys. All right, man.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you, man. Definitely.
Thank you guys. Good night.
That's what he said. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. Ronda Rousey happened. She was so dominant and such a personality in Strikeforce. You couldn't ignore her. And then her persistence in pushing a women's division empowered the other women in the division, Miesha Tate. And then, of course, Chris Cyborg was there. It empowered these women to push and get better and just put on shows like we were used to seeing from the men. Those are top-tier women right there. They came to the UFC. Dana White finally started putting on the flyweight and strawweight and divisions, and here we are today, where we're having, not only are we having women in the UFC, we're having women main event. You know, not only main event. Shoot, there was a card recently where you got a women's main event, and then you got a women's co-main underneath that. The men are third tier down there. So, yeah, I love Strikeforce. That's the point. And I love the fact, and we're going to talk more about it later on, that Scott Coker has actually got back with Showtime, and they're about to revamp their MMA game, because I'm really excited for the possibilities, because Scott Coker, of course, was the big guy, the big owner, or the big showrunner, promoter when it came to Strikeforce. I said owner, but I meant promoter, sorry. And now that he's going back with Strikeforce with Bellator, wow. Mark my word, that's something to take note of, because they know how to put on shows. And they know how to recruit good fighters. I mean, good fighters that you want to watch, you want to pay attention to. Just watch. I guarantee you they got some stuff in the works. Now, also in Dana White's interview with Brett Okamoto, he touches on Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Okay? Well, this will be the second time they fought. The first time they fought was boring as hell. People would love to unsee that fight. Neither one of them wanted to engage. They both were just worthless that night. Let's put it that way. So, do we want to see number 2? Yeah, we do. Since that fight, both have shown improvement. Both have shown growth, and within their technique and the way they look at things, and their motivations and their goals. Such a great example is Derek Lewis. Before, you read his Twitter, you listen to his interviews, and he's just cracking jokes, not really taking anything seriously. Well, buddy, you're a knockout artist, and you're in line for a title shot, and you can tell that somebody said that to him, and he's taking it seriously, and he's like, okay, I'm sorry, I was so boring that first fight, I will never put on a show like that again. Ngannou shares the same sentiment. He's like, we were extremely boring, don't expect anything like that again. Expect nothing less than a barn burner. Now, barn burner, I say loosely because we're talking about two heavyweights here, and typically, once heavyweights start throwing all their energy out in the first round. It gets real slow the following round. So we shall see how they pace themselves, but they both got to watch out for the other one's knockout power because they both have it. And John Jones, man, missed an opportunity. He should have took that fight with Ngannou, but he didn't. Negotiations fell through. The UFC said he wanted $30 million. Jones said they're lying and that he wanted somewhere closer to $10 million. But regardless, negotiations failed, and that fight is no longer available to Jones. And in the interview with Brett Okamoto, he stated that the logical step for Jones is Stipe Miocic now. I like that fight. I mean, short of him fighting Ngannou, who else is he going to fight? However, I feel bad for Stipe because I don't think Stipe really stands a chance against John Jones. And I'll tell you why. Jones is too technical. He's too rangy. He's great all around. And he's patient. He makes you fight his fight. That's a tough fight for Stipe, regardless. Yeah, so that's the news. I'll probably release another short snippet towards the end of the week revolving around Saturday's fight card. Stay tuned. I'm also working on an episode revolving around The Ultimate Fighter. They're about to release a new season, and I just want to revisit the first 3, maybe 4 seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, maybe even more. But go through some highlights and where are they nows and that sort of thing revolving around the show. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. See you next week.